Let's start with the hard hitter. Is it okay to wear a Christmas sweater before Thanksgiving?
No, that's just not right. That's just not right, man. That's like putting up your Christmas decorations before Thanksgiving. You got to wait till the day after Thanksgiving. That's just the rules.
Coach, it's blue and white. There's no Santa on it.
It's got Santa Cosmo
It has
in a way.
basically snowflakes and trees and a BYU Cougar. It's a winter sweater. Your thoughts?
Well, okay. I'll leave that alone. It's not my place to judge. Hey, I got to tell you guys a great story about the holidays. My 5-year-old grandson. So they live in Columbus, Ohio. So my wife and I, we go for Halloween. And this has been a big secret. He says, they call me Pop. They say, Pop, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to be, but it's a big surprise. So we're going, okay, what's it going to be? So we're there, and then Tuesday morning, and they have an event at his school where you wear your costume into class, and they have a little parade, and all the parents and grandparents there. It's great. So I'm sitting down, and just waiting. My wife and I are sitting, having our breakfast, waiting for my grandson to come down. And he's so excited. He won't tell us what it is. He comes down, and he's dressed in a BYU football uniform with my number on it.
Yeah.
And my daughter tells me, says, because my daughter has a picture of when I was playing or whatever in the house, and my number was 87. And she said about a month ago, my grandson said, I want to dress up like Pop for Halloween. So that was big. As a grandparent, now you guys are young kids, and I know you can't appreciate this, but as a grandparent, that one was like, I mean, my wife just starts crying. And
yeah, did you cry? Did you cry?
No, I just took all the money out of my pockets and just threw it at the kid. Just throwing money at him,
It's like, I want candy. You're like, no, you're going to take these nickels.
No, here. Just all the cash I got. It's yours, man. That was big time for a parent.
I love thinking about a BYU jersey number 87 walking around Columbus, home of the Ohio
State. I know,
State.
excuse. And people, they go to the door. People go, now is that Yale? Or is that BYU?
Classic,
so you can tell their East Coast prejudice.
Exactly.
Pop is with us on BYU Sports Nation.
You got it. Pop's on the road.
Coach, now to, unfortunately, more serious matters. Speaking about the current status of BYU football, when a team officially isn't going to a bowl game and they don't have any of that in sight, how do you motivate this team for BYU's sake, 3 games left in the 2017 season?
Well, it almost comes down to an individual basis. You have a young team, the collective goals that you have as a team, although you're always collectively trying to win. What's the mantra in any football, whether it's college or pro? It's all about this week. All right. So the fact that don't worry about where we're at in terms of our total record and if we're going to bowl game. It's all about this week. It's all about UNLV. But more than that, you're at a point you see in the NFL right now, too. We're getting closer to teams that are going to be mathematically eliminated, which is a tough place to be if you're in the NFL. So you got to find, the focus. Okay, well, what is it about going forward? Well, in the NFL, you want to be one of those teams that finishes strong. There's always a team that will win 4 of its last 5, 3 of its last 4, that are out of the playoffs, but show that uptick going forward. And in the college ranks in particular, it would seem to me, I would put I'd get all my coaches together and say, look, I want, as the head coach, you can't do it with everybody because there's just too many bodies in college football. But you get your assistant say, I want you sitting down with every single one of your players individually and creating a plan, a very specific plan of, okay, between now and the end of the season, what are you going to focus on? What do you got to get better at? If you're a receiver, you got to get better at your out-breaking routes. If you're a DB, I got to get better coming out of my back pedal, or I got to get better at route recognition. If I'm a defensive end, I got to develop more of a bull rush, or whatever it is. And the more specific, the better, so that you can give them that individual. So that at the end of the season, and then you keep going with it. Okay, we're going to focus on that this week, and you give them a plan how to address that. You've got to give them something that gives them that full. This is why I'm showing up every day at practice. This is how I'm going to get better, and the result may not show up until next year. But I'm going to put that work in right now, and you've got to task them on something about individually getting better.
Why do the final 3 games matter for BYU, given the context of kind of everything that's going on now?
Well, every game matters. I'll pull my Herm Edwards. You play to win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, there is value in competing. And again, I keep equating it to the NFL because that's what I'm most recently familiar with. But unless you're a coach that's on the hot seat, that changes the whole dynamic in terms of what you're dealing with. But if you're a coach that's going forward and you know your position is secure, then part of the challenge, at least in the NFL, is challenging those individual players is, look, I'm going to be here next year. Now, whether you are or not is questionable. Now, that's different in college ball. I get that. But it's you got to show me over the next couple weeks. You got to show me over the last half of the season, or in college ball over the next 3 or 4 games, whatever it may be. Show me why you should be on this football team, and that you're one that I can count on in a pinch next year when we're going to be good, but we hit a tough patch either in a game or during the stint of the schedule. That you're someone I can count on, that you can be a good teammate. And sometimes you just have to challenge it at that level.
Brian Billick with us on BYU Sports Nation, Super Bowl champion coach in the NFL and BYU football standout tight end coach. When there's a situation like Kalani Sitake is dealing with right now, 2-8, and, he feels disgust and frustration and all of those emotions that go along with it. Not to mention all of the noise that is creeping in and all of the naysayers that are slipping in through the cracks, whether it be social media or whatever. What's that like for a coach to take all of the blame, which he willingly accepts, but what's it like to take the blame as the head coach when times are tough?
Well, that comes with the job. As I've always said, you may not be responsible, but you are definitely accountable. Meaning that, there's any number of reasons why things aren't going well. And you can even identify them. And it may not, and it may not be your fault. It just may be that the players, whether it's injury or the players aren't performing at a certain level. Maybe your assistant coaches have not been following through on whatever it is. I mean, there's a whole litany of things. But at the end of the day, you're going to be the one held accountable for it. That's what the job is. It's the job description. And it may not seem fair at times, but that's, when you hold your hand up and you get sworn in, so to speak, that's part of the oath, and that's the challenge as a coach. And you're going to hear coach after coach after coach is what's the most common thing you hear in a news conference today? Almost to the point it's become cliche, but every coach after a tough loss, well, I got to coach better. I got to do better. Or when you do the dreaded, this one's on me, which I always kind of cringe at a little bit. I understand what you're doing. I understand you're trying to take responsibility, but you got to be careful with that one. Because at some point people are going to go, yeah, it is you. And so now where do we go from here? But that's the job as a coach. And every coach is going to stand up and do the same thing, say we got to play better. I got to coach better, meaning we have to coach better. Everything about the organization has to be better, and everybody has to stay focused on that. And you're going to bring that focus by way of accountability to yourself as the head coach.
Tanner Mangum's out for the year with an Achilles injury, so now it's down to Bo Hodge or Joe Critchlow or Cody Wilstead. With 3 games left, no bowl game possible, and no timeline for Tanner Mangum's return past spring and into fall next year. Should BYU go with the guy that gives them the best chance to win, or look at maybe a hidden gem in a guy that hasn't played much at quarterback?
I'd assume that kind of is the same. If you have a veteran guy and an older guy that is going to get you through the game a little bit better than maybe the young guy, but he's not going to be the future for you, and you've got it stacked up a little bit differently, or you've got that young player that needs that seasoning, then I think that's the way you go. Because you like I said, in the NFL between now and January, if you're a team that is headed for out of the playoffs, your job one beyond, on game day, yes, it's about winning. We play to win the game. And that's what it's all, that's your singular focus. But leading up to it, your preparation, and ultimately your bigger responsibility is I need to know come January what my primary needs are, what I have and I don't have on this team, so that I can go about addressing it in the off season. And in the college game, it would be the same thing. We need to know come January what we have and what we don't have, or at the very least, where our focus and our preparations in the off season need to go. either by individually or by position or collectively, offensively or defensively. So those are hard questions to answer. And it's tough for a team when you're going to go maybe with some young players, particularly the older players, because that makes it feel like you're giving up. Well, no, I'm not giving up. We want to win the game, but we have some other priorities as well, and we got to support our teammates that we want to find this out about.
Follow him at Coach Billick on Twitter. Check out his Facebook page as well. Great stuff from Brian Billick. We'll finish with this. BYU plays at UNLV tomorrow. The Cougars have never lost to the Rebels in Vegas, 8-0 all-time, yet they are a 4-point underdog and dealing with the quarterback situation we just talked about. What are you expecting from this 2-8 BYU team against an upstart 4-5 UNLV team that's battling for a bowl games position?
Yeah, you got to see a good effort. If I'm UNLV, I'm scared to death of BYU because they're that team that are in the proverbial corner that has nothing to lose. UNLV's coming off some pretty good wins against Fresno and Hawaii, and they've got New Mexico and Nevada, obviously a big game for them afterwards. So this is a big game for them, and you got to draw on that energy. Particularly the fact that you're going to be on the road, so I imagine there's going to be a lot of energy in their stadium if this team is indeed and the community is wrapped around the fact, hey, we may be a bowl team or we're actually playing pretty good here. So yeah, you got to tap into that energy. It's kind of good to be on the road sometimes, particularly when you are struggling with all the things that we just talked about. And so, yeah, this could be the fact that the history against UNLV and has never lost and all that kind of stuff. I mean, those players don't care. They weren't a part of most of that history. They're all about this week and drawing on the energy of going down to what should be a good, high-energized game against a team that's obviously playing pretty good, in that they've beaten a Fresno State team that had just beaten you.
Coach, when can fans see you next on the NFL Network?
Well, actually, I'm on this afternoon on what they call Thursday Night Football First Look. I'm on from noon to 2 West Coast time, 3 to 5 East Coast time. And then, of course, every Wednesday on my show Playbook for the NFL Network. Had a good show yesterday. Talked about some of the big matchups coming up this week. We got Dallas in Atlanta, which is obviously going to be a good game that everybody's looking for. And then, obviously, the Northern States, Buffalo Bills got a big game. A lot of big games in the NFL going on right now. Should be fun.
All right. Fantastic stuff. We wish you many more happy Christmas memories as Pop with your family.
That's right. That's right. And ditch the sweater, okay?
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys.
Brian Billick on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Deseret First, your values, your timeline, your financial future.
Oh, the Christmas bullying.